Hi guys, it's Claire. Welcome back. Today I am here with a little reading vlog. I made my first and only reading vlog a few months ago, and at the time I remember mentioning that I don't really think of myself as having a very vloggy personality or lifestyle, in that I don't have much of either, but I did enjoy doing it last time. I don't really think that I have enough going on in my life to warrant like regular vlogging, but I also wanted to do this reading vlog because I have been reading The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, which is a fantasy novel that has been on my radar for quite some time. Fantasy is a genre that I've been wanting to explore a little bit more, and so this was one of the books on my list that I wanted to check out. I am buddy reading this with Jennifer from Insert Literary Pun here, and I'm already about halfway through it. I initially was really loving this, so much so that I actually went out and got a copy of The Dragon Republic, which I'm now potentially regretting, just because I think the story has turned a little bit and gone in a direction that I'm not totally sure I'm on board with. I thought I would just like vlog the rest of this reading experience. I also have a couple of other fantasy novels that I have gotten recently that I might potentially get to in this vlog, depending on how it goes. It is getting a little bit chilly, so I am going to make some soup and then read a little bit, and then I will check in with you in a little bit. Hello, so it is about midnight and I am starting to fade. What I'm finding kind of interesting about this book is that I started reading it about a week ago and I was really sucked in initially. It follows this young girl named Rin, and when the book opens she's 14 and studying for a big exam that is kind of reminiscent of the Chinese university entrance exam. She is a war orphan from a poor village and ends up testing into the most prestigious military academy in the country. This book is fantasy, but initially it really reads more like a kind of alternative history. It's set in a country which seems to be mapped onto China, and some of the historical events in this book seem to be mapped onto East Asia. There's a federation that is quite transparently, I think, supposed to be Japan. Jennifer and I were talking a little bit about how it does read a little bit like YA. So it definitely has that boarding school vibe. Right at the end of part one, the story takes a turn kind of into shamanism and the gods and kind of the more magical or religious or at least otherworldly elements of the book. It's kind of in describing all of that I'm starting to find that the writing is just kind of like falling apart a little bit. There's just a lot of kind of hyperbolic, overwrought, verbose language. It feels like a lot of words that are not saying that much. Rin doesn't really have a personality yet, and so I think I'm also kind of having trouble tracking sort of where she's going in this book. She makes this kind of sharp turn into shamanism, and then also into like power more generally in a way that I don't really understand because I don't understand her as a character yet. Do you ever have the experience of reading a book where you just don't feel like you are in sure hands? That's kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like in the first 150 pages, I was really in it and excited to see where it went. And now I don't know if I trust R.F. Kuang to like drive this boat home, or rather land the plane. I am almost at page 300 of a 520 page book. I would really like for this book to pull itself together, but I'm just not feeling 100% confident that that's going to happen right now. For now, I'm going to go to bed. I am waking up bright and early to watercolor with my friend who is in the UK, so I will check in with you tomorrow. Good morning. I am up not that bright and early, but it feels bright and early to me. It's about 9:30 and I am about to do some watercoloring with one of my friends. We've done this in the past and it's kind of a nice way to hang out without looking at a screen the whole time. And I am not a particularly artistic person, and so when I watercolor, I like to paint based off of a picture that I can follow along. So I am going to pick out the picture that I want to paint this morning and then we'll get into it. So this is going to be the picture that I am trying to paint today. It's a picture I took in Wisconsin last year of a little horse chilling on a hillside. I made a mistake. I'm trying to add like pink flowers that aren't in the picture and I think I've gone too far. All right, commit to the bit, Claire. All right, here is the finished product. I think I went a little bit too ham on trying to make like flowers in the hillside, and my horse is also looking a little bit grim, but you know what, not bad for an amateur effort. So I finished reading The Poppy War and what a train wreck. The ending of that book was shockingly bad. I really struggled between pages 200 to 300 and then there was a brief flicker of potential redemption where I thought that things were getting interesting again, or I at least was interested in seeing where the plot was going to go, and then it truly went off the rails. Rin as a character makes no sense, especially in the middle of the book. It almost feels like she's an absent narrator. There's so little there in terms of character or motivations that are justified or built up or make sense. There's this character named Altan who's kind of this mysterious figure who Rin gets closer to as the book goes on, and then at a certain point all of his character and motivations are kind of transferred to her in a way where you just have to wonder, why was this book not about Altan? Because Altan is a fairly one-dimensional character, but at least he has a personal history that makes his motivations make sense. When those are transferred to Rin, it's just like, I know that she idolizes him, but that doesn't convince me that his anger and vengeance would transfer to her so completely that at the end of the book she would literally commit genocide and nuke a country on Altan's behalf. Like, spoiler alert. But yeah, which also just brings me to, I think, the way that the book depicts war and violence and things like genocide felt very shallowly explored. I find myself a little bit wary sometimes about how violence is used and depicted in books, because I think sometimes it can be used as a kind of shorthand for depth and complexity and gravitas, and I definitely think that that is how the violence in this book functions. I've seen this book getting a lot of credit for depicting very dark and disturbing events and atrocities that certainly have happened in the course of human history, but I was not very satisfied with the way that this book explored that and the way that it kind of considered the implications of that kind of violence. And then also at the end, it's like Rin's friend is like, what the f, you just nuked a country, you're a bad person. And she's like, oh my God, why are you being so mean to me? And I'm just like, is this for real? Like, is this actually something that was written in a book? And then on a kind of plotting and writing and character development level, it was just a hot mess. So I cannot recommend this book. However, it was a successful buddy read with Jennifer in the sense that we talked about a number of other things and she gave me some other good fantasy recommendations. And she mentioned the book A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay, which I think is a light fantasy novel set in a kind of alternative history, Renaissance Italy. And so I have downloaded that from the library. I'm hoping it's going to be a kind of good palate cleanser, but I'm also excited to check it out because one of the things that I did like the most about the Poppy War was the kind of alternative history aspect of it. So I am going to start reading that and I will check in with you later. Hello, checking in again after another long work week. It's Friday, I took the day off work. It was beautiful out, so I went on a really nice long bike ride down to the bay. I have been reading A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay. I'm about 25% of the way into it, and I am really liking it. It's kind of unlike anything I've read before. Definitely not like any fantasy I've read before, what little fantasy I've read, but it kind of follows a handful of different characters. There's one character where his chapters are narrated in first person, but it's him kind of looking back on his life. And then the other chapters focusing on other characters are told in a very omniscient third person where you'll kind of spend some time with a character and then like you are told how long they live and where and how they died and things like that. The writing is really beautiful in a very understated, elegant kind of way. The dialogue is good. The narration tends to have a kind of gentle wisdom to it, the kind of hard-won wisdom of someone looking back on the events of their life. And so in that sense, a little bit in terms of the narrative tone, it reminds me a little bit of Pavan for a Dead Princess, purely on kind of the narrative point of view level. And then it also reminds me of Middlemarch, where the third person narration is very omniscient and also very wise in a quiet way. And then also Middlemarch has an emphasis on kind of ordinary lives. And this book is an interesting combination of following these powerful, important characters and then also these totally obscure, unimportant people who kind of exist in that same world and time. But I'm also getting the sense that maybe the whole point of this book is that even the powerful people are not super important in the long run, or at least only important in the sense of the choices that you make affect not only yourself, but everyone around you in a kind of interesting, like, butterfly effect sort of way. That being said, I am, again, 25% of the way through this book, and I could not tell you what it was about, like on a plot level. Like somebody has been assassinated, but like where it's gonna go from here is extremely unclear to me, but I'm really digging it. So that's kind of a nice, interesting, sort of surprising new foray into fantasy. So I am gonna keep reading that and I will check in with you again soon. Hello, it is yet another weekend. I have once again emerged from the sinkhole that is my life during the work week in a nice serendipitous tie-in to my last vlog from 6 months ago. I finally finished drafting the White Ivy review that I started during that vlog, and I filmed it yesterday and have started editing it and have been kind of off my reading, but it's the weekend again, so I am going to finish up Brightness Long Ago this weekend. I'm really continuing to like it. I'm about 2/3 of the way through now, and it is just wonderful. It's like I said before, it's kind of unlike anything I've read before, and one of those books that kind of talks about youth and the choices that you make in your youth, but kind of with the wisdom and perspective of older age. It's kind of making me want to do a video comparing books like this one and Pavane for a Dead Princess, and even something like My Antonia potentially. But then beyond that too, the book has this incredible horse racing scene kind of as the centerpiece in the middle of it, and it's based on the Palio in Siena, which I have actually been to, and the way that that scene is written is just absolutely captivating and thrilling and transporting. It kind of does an interesting thing where it feels very cinematic, but then also has more to it, where it kind of lays out the scene in a way where you can see it kind of being spliced and shot in like a movie or a TV show or something, but then you're also incredibly inside the heads of all of the characters who are in the race and watching the race and all of that stuff. So anyway, all that's to say that I'm really loving A Brightness Long Ago. A friend is about to come over for brunch. I made some more blueberry bread for it. So yeah, and then allegedly it's gonna be like 90 degrees today. I'll check in with you later. Hello, so I finished reading A Brightness Long Ago last night, and oh my god, that book is so good. I keep trying to figure out how Guy Gavriel Kay managed to write this book that is full of such kind of quiet restraint and elegant, spare writing and this formal dignity that feels part and parcel with and true to the alternate universe, Renaissance Italy, city-states, political intrigue vibe of the whole book, while at the same time having these moments that feel genuinely epic and just breathtaking. And I know I've said this like every time I've talked about this book, but it really does feel like nothing I've read before. Reading this book does feel kind of like looking at this broad, beautiful, intricately woven tapestry where you kind of focus in on an individual figure in the broader fabric, where you get to know them kind of in this moment in their life or this moment in history, because that's really what this book is about. It has these incredible characters in it, but it's not about kind of the hero's journey or character development. Instead, it's about history and storytelling and memory and kind of the brightness of particular moments in our lives. And yet at the same time, it is still incredibly emotionally resonant. I was genuinely surprised by how moved I was by particularly the last third of the book. And yeah, just everything in this book feels so incredibly earned, and nothing about it feels overstated. If anything, it feels understated, but in a way that just so yeah, I'm just obsessed with this book, and I definitely want to think about other ways to kind of talk about it in some other kind of video. So I am gonna think on that. I think it'll be sitting in my brain and my bones for a long time. But yeah, I'm also definitely planning to read more Guy Gavriel Kay. And then to kind of round out this little fantasy kick that I'm on, I also started Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which is the first book in her Six of Crows duology. Is that what it's called? It's part of the Grishaverse, which includes the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and I did pick this up when I was in the midst of reading the first part of the Poppy War, which got me thinking that I wanted to read more YA fantasy. I also picked this up kind of off the hype of the Netflix show, which I still haven't watched, but I feel like watching people's reviews of that kind of made me interested in the whole world and fandom. And so I started it the other night and I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 200 pages into it. This follows a group of kind of 6 outlaws, like tricksters, whatever, on a heist mission. The writing has that quick, pacey, kind of pull you in, pull you through the story kind of feel that I'm really enjoying. The one thing that I'm finding kind of funny is that all of these characters are supposed to be like 16 or 17, but they definitely have experience and reputations far beyond their years in a way that I'm just like, there is no way that Kaz Brecker is 17. Like, I'm sorry, try and defend that in the comments below. Like, you can't. That kid is like definitely at least 23. And the books are mature in the sense that they're kind of violent and like these kids have been through a lot. I don't really see like why they need to be 17 rather than being like 22 or 23, which would be a little bit more believable. And it just, I don't know, I just think YA is kind of funny in that way because I feel like it would still appeal to the exact same audience, but I will keep reading this and check in with you later. I finished reading Six of Crows and I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. I feel like it kind of hit that fantasy YA spot that I was really hoping the Poppy War was going to hit. And so it was just a really satisfying, transporting kind of read. She's able to develop the world building just in kind of every detail that she mentions without the book feeling overladen with detail, but it's just kind of like no description is wasted. Like every description is in some way contributing to the world building. So I thought that that was great. The dialogue is quick and snappy. I also think that she does a good job of giving the characters enough backstory that you care about them, but also without pulling momentum away from the main action of the book. And she does sprinkle the backstory throughout the book in a way that just creates a bit of tension and suspense because you're kind of trying to figure out these characters as the book is going along. I did enjoy the whole crew. I think she did a good job of making you care about 6 different people, which, you know, this is a long book. It's like 450 pages, but it's not that long. And so to kind of get you emotionally connected to all of those different people, I think was quite the feat. I still stand by the fact that none of these characters are 16 and 17. These are all definitely people in their 20s. I'm not 100% sold on the kind of romantic connections that are brewing within the crew. I'm willing to be won over, but I do think that maybe Kaz needs to be a bit less of an emotionally withholding asshole for me to jump on board that ship. I would say the one thing about the book that I wasn't super keen on is because it is a heist book, the last 100 pages of it was pretty action heavy, and I was just kind of like ready to get done with the heist, if that makes sense. I also wasn't super satisfied with the ending, like the last 20 pages. Obviously, they want you to go and pick up the second book, which I will be doing today. But anyway, yeah, this was a fun time. I definitely recommend it. I'm gonna go out and get Crooked Kingdom and start reading that soon. If you've made it this far, thank you for joining me on my foray into fantasy. If you've read any of these books, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have thoughts more generally on fantasy, YA, whatever, let me know down below. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Before I go, I also wanted to mention that this video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an amazing online learning platform for creative and curious people who are looking to develop their passions and explore new skills. They offer thousands of awesome classes ranging from gardening and candle making and baking to web design and productivity and branding. Speaking of all this vlogging, I recently took a Skillshare class called Documenting Your Life: 4 Methods to Live More Intentionally, taught by online content creator Nathaniel Drew, and it was a really interesting look at the benefits and best ways to document things in a variety of different mediums. So he looked at 4 main methods of documenting your life, which were vlogging, journaling, photography, and then reporting your own life. And he offered some really great tips and insights into how to select and thoughtfully curate certain moments that you can have to look back on particular times in your life. Skillshare classes are all designed to fit your busy schedule. It's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, and it's curated specifically for learning, which means there are no ads, and Skillshare is constantly adding and launching new and exciting premium classes for you to explore. So if you're interested in exploring your creativity through Skillshare, the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description box below will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Thanks to you for watching, and I will see you next time.